This episode is brought to you by BioCell RX. BioCell RX is an amazing company that makes some of the best CBD I have ever tried. I've been personally using this product for over 3 months, and it does not disappoint. I don't go anywhere without it. When traveling, it's really hard to get to sleep, especially when I'm swapping time zones and going to different places, sleeping in hotels and not in my own bed. CBD helps me get a good night rest so that I can wake up feeling refreshed, ready to coach, ready to teach, or ready to compete. Whatever it is, I take my CBD with me. My CBD is my partner in crime, my partner in travel. BioCell is one of the products that, if it's not in my backpack, I'm not leaving the house. You guys are definitely going to want to head over to biocellrx.com and pick up a bottle of your own. The cool thing about BioCell is they offer CBD at an incredibly highly concentrated formula. With over 6,000 milligrams per bottle, you can get one bottle and hold on to it for a long time. The typical dose for CBD is around 30 milligrams, so you do the math. One bottle will last you a very long time. You don't have to deal with constantly ordering new products and waiting for it to arrive and maybe running out, all of the nonsense. Use code PLAYTHEGAME and get $25 off at checkout. All right, everybody.
This episode is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. They are an amazing online supplier and have been around since the beginning of the game as Michigan's premier paintball field and paintball supplier since 1987. They are rapidly expanding into the online retail space and supplying everything you need to be the best paintball player you can be. They have got it all. Head over to lonewolfpaintball.com and shop all of your favorite brands. And they also boast amazing customer service and will have this out to you with same-day shipping, which is amazing. It's always nice to know that your stuff is on its way immediately so you can start to use it that very next weekend of play. Check out their YouTube, Lone Wolf Paintball, and their Instagram, @LoneWolfPB, and stay up to date with all of their deals and sales. Play the Game podcast is immensely honored to have them on board, and we cannot wait for you guys to check out lonewolfpaintball.com and become a part of their community. This episode is brought to you by HK Army. The tournament season is right around the corner, and there's a ton of teams out there who still haven't finalized their 2023 gear sponsorships. Well, look no further, PTG fam. HK Army is offering team sponsorships along with custom designed team jerseys, pants, dry fits, gloves, and more. Get your squad in matching gear head to toe from HK Army, and be sure to let them know that PTG Podcast sent you. To get your team sponsored, simply email teams@hkarmy.com and ask for the HK Army sponsorship program. That's teams, TEAMS, @hkarmy.com to kick off the 2023 season in style with HK Army. Today's episode of PTG is brought to you by the one and only Trans Labs that brought the world two amazing products. First off, Transfuse, which is a hydration multiplier, and most recently they just dropped Transcend, which is a nootropic energy formula. No matter what you use, when you choose Trans Labs, you are going to be boosted and you are going to be ready to charge the paintball field and win out there. With Transfuse, that is a premium rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula scientifically designed to replenish you at the cellular level, and they use all natural ingredients in this product. We've got zinc, we've got vitamin B6, we've got vitamin C, sodium, potassium, choline, and it is an amazing way to make sure that you're hydrated and prepared to play top-level paintball. When it comes to Transcend, that is a premium nootropic energy formula designed to increase cognitive performance, elevate mood and clarity while supporting long-term brain health, and it's going to leave you feeling great with no crash or jitters. It's one of the only products in the nootropic space backed by research studies to ensure the formula is correct for optimal performance. It is more potent than anything on the market, and it will keep you charged and ready to win out there. I take 1 scoop, but if you're stimulant sensitive, take a half scoop, and if you want that LFG dose to launch to the moon, dump 2 scoops in your drink and you are going to be flying down that paintball field. Comes in 2 delicious flavors, Baja Blast and Skittles Candy for the Transcend. And for the Transfuse, they have 2 new flavors as well, Pineapple Express and Hawaiian Punched. So if you get a chance, head over to translabs.com. That's TRANZLABS.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME and you'll get 10% off. If you subscribe to a monthly delivery service, you also get 10% off as well. So you could take advantage of 20% off on these products. head over to translabs.com and give it a go.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. This episode, we have Tom Cole back on the show. A Valentine Day special for everybody out there. The season is fast approaching, and there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. A lot of movements, with teams, players, league changes, all sorts of stuff. Some people are super happy. Some people aren't so happy. So Tom wanted to jump on, clear the air, and really address a lot of the concerns from the public. This episode was awesome. Always enjoy having Tom on. Tom is just dynamite at really being personable and trying to connect with, the consumer. As the president of the NXL, he does a fantastic job. So I think this is an episode you guys are all going to love. Without further ado, let's hop in the show.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon. Great shot by all the guys. Tyler Harmon saved that game.
He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
Welcome all to PTG Nation. We got Tom Cole in the PTG lounge here, president of the NXL, and happy Valentine's Day, Tommy. I know you're probably going to be, having some fun, hanging out with the wife and enjoying Valentine's Day. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Excited to be on the show.
Heck
awesome,
yeah,
Tom. Us too. Hey, really quick, public service announcement for Valentine's Day. If you really want to be a pro, then you celebrate Valentine's like the weekend before or a few days before. And then on Valentine's Day, you do a few extra nice things, some flowers, maybe cook a meal at home, right? You don't want to go and be like sitting in the restaurant with, everyone else that's out there on Valentine's Day. That's never, I don't feel like that's that romantic, right? I feel like it's so cookie cutter. I feel like there's other things you could do to celebrate Valentine's Day. So yeah, hopefully everybody kind of already has their ducks in order and
but it's a little late for that advice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Tom, I mean, we could have talked about this last week.
Yeah.
It was funny when you hit me up about being on the show. I was like, hey, Tuesday works. Yeah, it works for us, but you know that Tuesday's Valentine's Day, right? And you're like, good point. Let me check with the lady.
Let me check with the wife. Yeah. You got to hit the wife up occasionally.
100%.
Always. What do you guys got planned for tonight? Because I know personally at the Harmon house, we're just taking it easy. Kind of like Marcelo said, gonna have a nice little home cooked dinner, and then this weekend we'll go out and I'll take my wife out and have a nice dinner with her. So it's not so crazy, not so crazy.
Yeah, we went out last night. She actually works, so she works till about 7:00, 7:30. So I'm gonna cook dinner tonight. I don't know what kind of treat that is. I'm sure that'll be should be nice about it, but it probably won't be great. But yeah, we went out to dinner last night and kind of did our thing last night. So I'm kind of
there we go
with Marcelo's plan there. Yeah.
Tom, what kind of food does Tom Cole cook? What's on the menu tonight? Steak. Okay, yes. I could see that.
Yeah.
What kind of sides? How do you do the steak? Is there peppercorn sauce? Is there béarnaise? What's going on?
I wouldn't go with a béarnaise or something. Do I look French? I basically cook it in a skillet, sear it both sides, kind of not too long, right? With some nice. A lot of pepper, a lot of salt, and that's about it. And then mushrooms.
Nice. Love that. Mushrooms on the side.
Baby Bella, yeah.
Okay. All right. My man's got it proper. You got an appetizer ready or something like that? You got some wine? You guys can do cocktails, wine? What does Tom drink?
She's got to work again tomorrow. So she works 13 hours a day. So yeah, we're not I don't really get her drunk before she goes and treats people.
Nobody said get drunk, but a glass of wine, maybe get the blood flowing. Yeah.
Everything in moderation, I guess. Yeah. But no, we probably won't be drinking wine. I have it in case she wants it, but yeah, we probably won't be drinking tonight.
And so she's in the medical field, a nurse.
Yeah, she's a nurse.
Yeah.
She's a ER nurse. So yeah.
That's a crazy line of work.
Yeah.
And
crazy line.
Yeah.
She actually,
everyone out there.
Yeah. I mean, she saved a guy at the ICPL. He had a stroke or whatever, went down. Yeah, she's been critical to some of our stuff there. So
absolutely.
If I remember correctly, too, she's a traveling nurse, right?
She was. We recently, okay. It was brutal with my travel schedule, and her travel schedule was getting a little brutal. So
got it.
Now we live in Alabama, so she's working at a hospital not far from here. So
nice. Yeah, my girlfriend is a surgical tech, and the travelers in that field absolutely crush it. They dominate. It's crazy how much money they make in comparison to like the full-time position. It's wild.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost self-fulfilling, right? Because if you have a traveler come in and they're making 3 times as much as you are, then you want to become a traveler.
Totally.
We were actually at one point in time renting our house to another traveler who was working in our city, getting paid 4 times as much. And she was working in another city, getting paid 4 times as much. So if the cities could have just got together, they could have paid a lot less.
Yeah.
We want to medical bills are so high. So
yeah, so true. And we had the Super Bowl this Sunday. Did you watch the game?
I did watch the game.
Crazy game, huh? Oh,
it was amazing. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
That's one of the best Super Bowls in a long time. Were you rooting for the Chiefs?
Yes. I was not. I was rooting for the Eagles.
Oh, that's brutal.
Take that, buddy.
Yeah.
Take that.
I mean, I don't really care, but my CFO, his wife is a huge Phillies fan for just for his happiness, right? I was rooting for the Eagles. So,
I mean, you can't script a closer game than that. It came down to the wire, and
no, that was amazing. Man. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. So
they did say it was scripted, though.
Yeah,
apparently, like all professional sports, I mean, they just script it. You know, you got to write the best story. So
I see that, and it's funny because like I get frustrated sometimes when I see the comments about us or whatever, and then you go read the NFL comments, and you're like, oh, I guess you're not doing anything right unless people are talking crap on you online. So
we're not that unique. Yeah, the online forums, the online forums are a place for trolls to troll. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everything is collusion, you know.
Everything is collusion.
Just everyone's all just setting traps, and you know, it's just the way it works. Yeah,
we hear that in paintball. Which is kind of the topic I want to go into, which is the whole like roster restrictions and salary caps and all that kind of stuff. Because I believe there's a lot of like weird disinformation about it, and kind of people are confused about how it would affect paintball and kind of that. So I kind of wanted to give like a perspective on it because I've looked into it quite a bit, and so I wouldn't say I'm an expert in the field, but I do know a little bit about it. So
yeah, please. Again, you actually, it's one of the rare times that you had reached out to me asking if there was a slot available. I know that you have a lot to share, and also on limited time here. So let's dive right into it, Tom. What do we got with that?
Well, the real question is, you know, first is like, what are we trying to achieve, right? So I see, and it seems like a lot of times when people are chiming in about their opinions on the pro, we'll just talk about the pros for right now. When they're chiming in about the pros, they have their own reason for wanting to do it. And it all falls back to let's kind of do it the way other professional sports do it. And a lot of that comes down to salary caps and stuff like that. And so as a fan of paintball, I like salary caps, right? Because it does 2 things. It keeps teams together and stops the big money teams from buying people. The negative side of that is it stops players from making the most amount of money that they can. And a tricky thing is, and so getting into any of that stuff, we start restricting movements and stuff like that. So first, it's against the law, right? There's 2 things that were put in place, the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, which I'm not going to get into all that. But basically, there's 2 laws that stop antitrust and from us restricting player movements, right? So there's a couple ways around that where we could come up with that rule, but let's just start with that, right? So,
hey, Tom, sorry to interject. Is this what you were talking about, where you need like congressional approval in order to be able to?
So baseball had a similar problem, right, where they wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. So they went to Congress to get past all the antitrust laws. So there's a lot of laws in the United States that stop you from doing predatory practices or doing something that restricts employment movements, right? And let's just use UPS and FedEx. They're easy to pick on because they're rich, right? It would behoove both of those 2 companies to say, hey, let's set a salary cap. Both of us can only spend $50,000 a year on a driver. And if one of your drivers quits, we won't let them play for us. A little good old boys handshake deal, which is what a lot of people pitch to us to say, hey, let's stop a dynasty player from leaving midseason, right? We use Tyler, since you did do that, right? So the fans don't like player movement to some level, right? Unless you're moving to their team, because we get associated with a team. We want that team to do well, and we want that group of friends to move on, right? And so, but that's complicated, right? Because basically, if you're receiving some type of compensation, even if it's just travel or whatever, or a better team that you like more, You want those opportunities to do that. So in the workplace, it's against the law to restrict any of those movements, right? So FedEx cannot tell an employee they can't go work for UPS, and UPS and FedEx could not make a deal to say they're not going to allow that. And for sure, you can't have a third party, let's call it the Shippers Association, which would be us, to say that it's against the rules for anybody to move around inside of that. Does that make sense? Because what would happen is, and let's just say Marcelo gets offered tomorrow $1 million to go play for Level Up, right? Pando hits the jackpot. He wants to play, right? So I say you can't leave Dynasty because you have an agreement. Well, I just stopped you from making $1 million because Dynasty's only paying you 12 or whatever the number is, right? So you are then going to be mad and you're going to be missing out on whatever. And there's been several lawsuits against the NFL for doing such things, and the NBA and Major League Baseball, right? People sue using the Sherman Act mostly, but sometimes the Clayton Act, to try and stop people from restricting their trade because it would be against the law in any other situation. So baseball went ahead and got the congressional exemption back in the day. And they've tried to apply it to other sports. And then the trick is, and the crazy thing is the player union is the thing that allows them to restrict the movements and all that stuff, right? So if you pay attention, currently the NFL's players union is trying to stop being a players union, because what gives the ability of the NFL to stop trades and enforce a salary cap is the fact that they have a collective bargaining agreement with the players. So the players don't want a players union. The owners of the teams want a players union because they want to keep parity in the league, because the more parity in the league, the more money they're going to make. Does that make sense? Did everything follow?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting. So have all the other just so I follow with you on this, Tom, because this is pretty foreign to me, but do all of the other leagues, they've gotten that same exemption as well?
No, so really only baseball has that exemption.
Okay.
And several other leagues have tried to get that exemption, but they haven't. So but it comes down to the union. If you guys went together, right, and you made a union tomorrow, right, and you represented, let's say, 80% of the players in the league, and me and you made it, it wouldn't even be me and you made a deal, but if a deal was made between the team owners and you guys, that would be binding forever, that there was a mode of agreement. So there was a time, I'm going to say late 90s, where the NFL, their contract was no longer enforced. The players were about to go on strike. And so at that point in time, several players sued to say, hey, because there's no longer a binding agreement between the NFL and the players union, we're going to say there is no players union. And the court system came back and basically said, because you guys have something in place to work these problems out, i.e. a collective bargaining agreements with the players, that you guys are still held by that rule. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, right? Because so you have three different parties here, right? So or four different parties, really. You got me, right? We're the NXL, right? So what we want is parity, right? So what I want is on any given day, the next best team could win. And I don't like the big money teams stealing people. And what I have is almost exactly in line with what the fan wants, right? The fan doesn't necessarily want people to make a lot of moves, right? Because you want, if you're a fan of, let's just say the Spick and Span show, you're a fan of Spick and Span, Alex and Ryan, they've been playing together since the dawn of time, right? They're one of the reasons why I like Dynasty, right? If suddenly they split up on two different teams, I'm not as big a fan of Dynasty as I was, right? So that's kind of why fans like that. The players don't like it because it limits the amount of money they can make. Someone like a Peyton Manning, right? And I'm going to use old people because I'm old, but Peyton Manning could have made way more money without a salary cap. Tom Brady could have made way more money without a salary cap. He ended up taking less money oftentimes because there was a salary cap imposed by the league, and that salary cap stopped him from making his most money. So he would take less money so he could bring in a good wide receiver. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So basketball and baseball have something similar, but they use basically luxury tax to kind of manage that, which still doesn't really manage it that well because the teams that spend the most money still get the most amount of players. They just have more money for the luxury tax, right? So it's kind of weird how it's convoluted. So the fans, guys.
Okay, yeah, real quick. So these player unions, they probably get together with the owners and come to an agreeable salary cap. That's something that's negotiated between those two parties. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, so that's I get it. Okay, I'm following that part then a little
So
bit.
let's say that all the pro players in the NXL decided to get together and negotiate with the owners group, which is not the NXL, right? So we're different than all these other leagues because we don't own the teams. So you would have to negotiate with, we'll call it the owners union, right? So the owners union and the players union would get together, right? The challenge we're going to have is there's such a disparity in what the high end players paid versus what the low end players get paid that there wouldn't be enough money. So let's just say, like last year, there was $2 million spent on pro player salaries, right? You divide that up by 20 teams, 200 players. That's not a lot of money.
And that's I don't think there was even that much spent on player salaries last year.
I'm just making up numbers, right? So if there's someone that's making, whatever, you're never going to get everybody to agree in because it's not enough money to divide up, right? So the high end players always end up taking a hit, and the people that benefit are the low end players, right? So they're willing to cut a lower end deal, and then you're going to have to vote on it, and you're always going to get outvoted. It's just like if we said, should we put the prize pack in a purely selfish world? If you said, let's put the prize package somewhere, I'd be shooting for 8th, right? Because my team is only, I can strive for 8th. I know there's only 4 teams that are going to win. So the same thing would happen to the players with their salaries. They're going to want some salary versus no salary. So they're going to lower the overall amount of money that one person can make. Does that make sense? So the other party that benefits from a salary cap is the owners, right? So right now, if we said the most that any team could spend is, let's just say it's 10 grand, right? So every player could only get $1,000. That's better for the owners that are overspending, right? It would help New York Extremes, right? Because now they could bid for you the same way that a Houston Heat could. So it's really is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? You can't come up with a solution until we completely understand the problem. And so you have fans chiming in, and I get their point of view, right? I don't like the players just moving around, and I don't like powerhouse teams. No one likes the New York Yankees except for 17 million people in New York, right? So,
and maybe one in California. I like the Yankees.
Maybe one in California. So there's the problem with that. And so the players usually don't want a players union because that's going to end up with some type of lower salary cap. But regardless, the NXL is not in the middle of all of that, right? So we want to explain that, right? So
in other sports, the NFL, the NBA, they are part of it because they also in some way own the teams. They don't necessarily own the teams, but they have some sort of agreement where they can, right?
They're all part of the same collective, right? So the analogy to us would be if all 20 pro teams actually own the NXL, and I was Roger Goodell, which I'd make a lot more money, but then he would negotiate. So he would arbitrate everything, right, amongst the owners, and then the teams would then negotiate with me to try and get that deal done. And potentially that is something we could do, but no one's going to – I mean, who's going to want that? The players don't want that, right? Because then we're going to minimize how much money they can get paid by a new super team.
Yeah.
Right? I always use Nike. If Nike came in tomorrow and said, we want a pro team, and let's just say for argument's sake, no one sold to them, which someone would, they could then hire the best team to play semi-pro, win semi-pro, and have a pro spot and just spend way more money than anybody else would win.
Certainly.
So, from a league point of view, that's not necessarily the healthiest situation, right? That's why the NFL, the NFL, the NBA, and hockey have all these like rules in place, and baseball does not, right? And so baseball is one of the challenges is the fact that people can spend whatever they wanted. I'm sure everybody's seen the movie Moneyball, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tricky world, and we would have to make steps. We'd have to make a lot of changes to make that happen. And then the way salary caps work is it's based on profitability. Right. So and I think the number is 55%, right? I think that's the number the NFL is currently doing, right? So if it's 55% of the profits is what the annual salary cap is for the league, right? So we would be in the hole. The pro players would owe the owners money, right? I'm sure Randy is spending more money than he brings in, right?
Yeah, I think we're like not even close to the point in time where we're discussing salary caps and stuff like that. In my opinion, I think we're just too far away from that.
You hear people say stuff like we should union, right? And so like that's where it's, I talked to Mark the other day, and I love Mark Johnson, right? So don't take any of these shots, but it's like he's the owner now, but he's also a player. So he's like, we should unionize, and I'm like, the last thing you want is to unionize because then you're going to end up paying more potentially, right? So it's confusing, right? And it is confusing. And it's a complicated issue, right? We just got to figure out what the goal is we're trying to attain.
It is confusing and it is complicated, but the fact that you're sitting here with us and with the entire paintball community, essentially, because we have a ton of people that tune into the show and having these conversations says a lot about you, and it says a lot about the NXL, and it says a lot about the vision, right? And making sure that we're covering all of our bases, because you're not blind or shutting your ears to things. You guys are very involved and you care, and that's why you make a point to bring up these types of things.
And we do. I mean, we try, right? Like, we don't always hit everything a home run, but we are trying, right? And we do listen. And it's, obviously I get frustrated when you see the social media posts or whatever, like, because I can't respond to each and every one of those in a debate like forum, right? Because then they just say I'm stupid or something. But and that's why these forums are great, because it allows us to kind of like give our vision at one time and everybody can digest it. And still no one, not everybody's going to like this, right? And I don't want everybody to like it. To me, a healthy argument is one of the best ways to do it. The last show, I argued with Marcelo about the layout release, right? And
I was just talking with Moorhead. I literally was just talking with Ryan Moorhead about this weekend, about, he was like, I'm very, I'm kind of confrontational because I always push back on what people said. I was like, that's great. Where would we be if we didn't have that,
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Tom, you bring up a good point, right? Like, what's our goal? We need to figure that out first. What are we trying to do? Talking about salary caps and, restricting movement, all that stuff is great. But first, you got to see, where's that money coming from? To me, the goal for paintball is, how can we make money for the league, for the players, for people watching on Go Sports? Like that is what we should be focused on. Once we do that, and if we have a lot of money that starts coming in those avenues, in my opinion, then we start figuring out how to pay the players.
So, all right, so we'll use that as the launch point here for everything that we're working for, right? So my current goal right now, unequivocally, is to get TV, right? Now, that's really probably going to mean OTT, right? Whether that's, Amazon, Netflix, one of those OTT platforms, Facebook Live, one of those things, YouTube, to cover our events live, right? So that is our number one goal. And so basically everything what we are trying to do as the NXL is to get us to that goal. That's why we have match play, right? I've always said that it's the more expensive format for us to run, but it's the best format from a competitive side, right? And so we'll talk about the double points here and the Champions Cup kind of thing, right? So there's two distinct models of running sports. There's a European model and an American model. And the European model, they base everything on a season and your standings inside the season. So if you play 10 games and you win all 10, you are going to be the series champion. American sports don't work that way. It doesn't matter what your record is going into the Super Bowl. It only matters how you do in that game. And we've had numerous instances where a team has had a much better record going into the Super Bowl and lost in the Super Bowl. But that's what makes sports. That's what makes people want to watch. That's why the Super Bowl is the most watched sport in the world. And even if you take it down a level to like the NHL and baseball, they still don't have one game, right? They have a multiple series of games that people still don't tune in until the game that matters, right? If you look at their viewership numbers that way. So the premise behind this whole road to World Cup and the Champions Cup and all of that stuff is to drive everything into one mega must-watch event, either because it's got the best prize package, it's got all the teams, it's got all the drama, it's got the European guys coming to challenge. It's to drive all that viewership to one day, the World Cup finals.
So then, Tom, why not make it a separate?
Right? I'm not saying that my direction is the best, but if you don't have a direction and a goal, you're always going to be going the wrong way.
Why not make it a completely separate thing then? Have a series champion like long before World Cup is even decided, and have like,
we talked about that, and I actually pitched this to Archie the other day, and he seemed to like it. It's one of the few of my ideas that he's ever liked. But so we thought about making the series title end at Chicago, right? And make Chicago basically America's Cup, and that's where the series ends. And then the Champion Cups is its standalone event. And my dream plan would be to run a Champions Cup event that is only the top 8 teams from every division on Pro Bowl weekend, right? So the weekend before the Super Bowl, because that is the unwatched TV time, right? Everybody's struggling to fill that slot. So if we had the top 8 pro teams in the world, top 8 semi-pro teams playing for it all, it can't be, it's almost impossible for Dynasty to beat Impact because they're already 4 wins up going into this event. It's got to be winner take all. That's where the drama comes from. And drama is why people watch. That's why people, when you have a true rivalry, right, where there might be, some incidents, or these two teams don't like each other, these players don't like each other. That's the games people watch because they've created drama, right? So this whole thing comes into the drama. No one cares what you did yesterday. They only care how you do today. So that's what this championship goal is. And I'm making it double points because I want people to care. And yes, there's no change that you're going to make that's not going to affect someone negatively. It's just a matter of figuring out what the better good is.
Without getting into whether I agree or disagree with double points, because that's a long conversation. Yep. What it feels like is that majority of people do disagree with double points, and we're very vocal about it. And the NXL still went ahead and did double points. Can we maybe, I know a lot of them are listening, can we kind of express why they might have been maybe ignored the wrong word to use, but not listened to, right? I'm sure you guys heard those opinions,
we
but
hear it every time we make an announcement, right?
This one, the double points seemed like it was less like, 50-50. It seemed like it was kind of unanimous that nobody wanted it. I could be wrong. And maybe it's my own echo chamber, but I don't know anyone that was like, yeah,
right.
Double points makes sense.
We don't do a good job, and thus this show, we don't do a good job of explaining our reasons sometimes, right? But we're not just changing stuff because everything's going perfect, right? I would never change anything if I thought and that's one of the things I get frustrated because people are always like, you don't want to grow paintball or whatever. If I didn't want to grow paintball, I would just show up at 5 events a year, play the exact same format we've been doing, not get any grief online, just go existing the way it is. Status quo is the easiest.
You wouldn't be here right now on Valentine's Day. I mean, straight up, like Tom, you really go above and beyond. Yeah, no doubt.
You have to challenge things. And it's like working out, right? If you want to run a marathon, there's going to be some pain. Now there's an end goal, and that goal is not to run 5. My goal is not to run at all, but you know what I mean? Your goal isn't to run 5 miles and be in pain. Your goal is to win the marathon or finish the marathon. My goal is to have us on TV before I die.
So explain this to me, say I'm one of those people who didn't love the double points. I was hoping it would be like 1.2 or 1.5 points, a little more. Make World Cup that much more important, but not so like, to where you could win 3 events and place 6th at World Cup and lose the series.
So part of the problem comes in is the fact that last year we had a weird system where you could drop points, right?
Okay.
And so that made it appear like that was a problem, right? So basically Dynasty could drop a score, right? Which really threw weird things into place, right? The problem is we have some teams in the lower divisions playing more events than I think is healthy, right? Okay. Sometimes I have to set limits that are for the long-term good of the teams and the league, right? So you don't want a D5 team chasing the series and playing all 5 events. That's not my goal. Now, yes, on a short-term financial goal, that's perfect, right? I want their money every time. But a long-term goal is to have the D5 guy play, let's just say they're in Philly, New Jersey. I want them to drive to Philly and play Philly. I want them to have a good time, and then I want them to be in the running for the championship after one event at World Cup. And the double points evens those odds out, because then if you don't win Philly, then you can still go to the World Cup and have a, bad news Bears come from behind back win, right?
Can't you accomplish the same thing by what you did? I actually loved that. There were 6 events in total, 4 majors, 2 minors. And for the divisional teams, you only had to play 3 majors, I think is what it was, or 3 events in total.
Correct. But it doesn't matter though. If you're allowing people to drop scores and all the scores matter the same,
they'll keep
then
going.
World Cup doesn't matter. They'll just keep going until they have the win, and all they got to do is show up at World Cup and win.
Well, again, I love World Cup, and I think this is where the frustration was with a lot of people, myself included, to be completely honest. But I think a lot of people liked World Cup being weighted more. I think that was also kind of unanimous. I think the feeling was that double was just too much, and it showed like a major disparity. And maybe, who knows, maybe it was an anomaly last year, with some of the teams.
It was a little bit of an anomaly because of the drop of the events, the 6 events. I think it'll stabilize now. So we ran the numbers, right? I don't think anything was crazy out of whack. So who won the pro spot?
Austin Notorious.
How did they do at World Cup?
They won World Cup.
Exactly.
Yep.
Isn't that a story you want to watch? Are you going to tune into World Cup on Sunday if the team that's already won the pro spot just got knocked out on Friday or Saturday, right? And the 2 teams playing the World Cup doesn't matter at all. You want the game to come down to something.
Right? I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Than a 6-6 tie in the finals, right? Who wants to watch? Look at what happened this year. You guys won 7-1 or something, right? Horrible. We just talked about the Super Bowl, and you guys said it was amazing that it came down to that last pass.
For sure.
Right? So that's why the NFL went to the 2-point conversion, right? One of the reasons, because they want a team to have the ability to do something weird at the end that can put them back in the running, right? Gives them another option.
Tom, how many events are required for the teams to qualify for a series championship for divisional teams?
Depends by the division. I believe go to D5. D5 is 1 plus World Cup.
Okay. How about example,
right?
D3?
I believe
D2.
D3 and D4 are 2, and I don't have my notes in front of me. D3 and D4 are 2 events plus World Cup, and the next ones are 4 events plus World Cup.
And they're not allowed to drop scores?
No, they still can drop scores, but because World Cup's worth double, it's not as mathematically good to do that.
Well,
see what I'm saying?
But I guess they're still able to chase events in a way, right? Because if
it doesn't matter if you don't do well at World Cup. That's what it comes down to, right?
Right. Okay.
So
they could, play 2, and if they get third and third, they don't have to chase another event.
Correct.
They could say, hey, let's put all of our eggs in the World Cup
basket.
It's
the mistake we made with the pros, right? Every pro, I was like, look, and I had this argument with Dynasty, right? I said, don't play the 6th event. And they're like, but we have to be in the running.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please don't. Because, in the end, we are healthier the less money you spend traveling. Right? That's the bottom line. And these teams, and so I don't want a D4 team or a D5 team building a roster to win the series, spending all that money to win a series in D4, right? I don't want them to play 5 events. And then the double points, we're talking about 2 different things, because one of the reasons for the double points is to try and make the World Cup cumulative and anybody can win it. And that's kind of where you're frustrated, right?
Kind of making World Cup just that much bigger too, right? Because it entices that many more teams. I'm sure, I don't know where I heard this, and I obviously didn't fact check it. I don't even know if there's a way to fact check it, but it's my understanding that a lot of the World Cup teams are actually throw together teams, and a lot of teams that go to World Cup, they didn't compete in the whole season. They just want to be at World Cup and play World Cup.
Correct.
Is that true, Tom? Okay, it is.
So most of the teams. So almost everyone plays an event plus World Cup. Almost everyone.
Got it. Okay.
There is a lot of throw together teams, especially in the bottom divisions and the 10-man, and then you do have the international guys that come in for World Cup. World Cup is obviously our biggest event by far.
Right.
But most of them have played their local event, and it's built that way. Like I said, we really want you to play Texas if you're a Texas team, play our Texas event, then play whatever local tournament you want in Texas, and then go to World Cup.
Got it. So Tom, would you say, is it safe to say that the league is kind of taking a stance that even if it comes at the sacrifice of some of the earlier events, Florida, MAO, Chicago, having less participants, the goal is ultimately to have World Cup be the biggest event possible ever.
Yes.
Okay. But see, I like that. I like that because from a marketing standpoint, it's badass too. If you have an event that is just bigger than, if it's some grand scale thing even if it's just once a year, from an outside perspective, that means something. That looks a certain way. That looks like, wow, this league really has their shit together. This sport really has their shit together. This many people came to this location on this weekend so that there could be a champion crowned. I do like that. You're sacrificing participation at previous events, but the goal is that World Cup will be the biggest.
And we take a step back. So if my primary goal is and that's not my necessary primary goal to make it the biggest, that is a perk of that. The real benefit is that it is the most need to watch event of the year, right? Because everybody's in the running, right? And so that's if I have to make a choice between two things, I'm always going to err on the side of having more spectators watch World Cup, right? Because I want to be able to go to a Netflix or whatever and say, this is how many people are going to watch this because of all these things. So just look at World Cup. We did the test. I did a test. We did the Latin team come in, not the Latin Saints, but the Wild Dogs came in from Latin America. We saw an increase in viewership pretty significantly from Latin America. This year, what did we do? We brought in a team from France, team from England, 2 teams from France, actually, a team from England, and a team from Colombia, right? So now it's a true world championship. In my perfect world, we would have a team coming in from Asia, a team coming in from Africa, a team coming in from Australia, and then all of those people would then be rooting for their pro team on that pro field in the most important day in paintball. You don't want to segment your viewership, right? So I'm trying to bring that all together into one thing. So that's my overarching goal, right? And when we are dealing with people, because people talk about the gambling guys, whatever, I invite everybody to World Cup. Everyone. You know, if
absolutely.
Right? If you want to do something with us, we have a business plan, you come to World Cup. Right?
My girlfriend wants to come to an event this year. I'm like, you can come to World Cup. Pretty much none of the other ones you're invited to.
Yeah. And you walk through those pits and you walk through the grandstands, you walk them through anywhere at the World Cup. People are in awe that we are this big.
Absolutely.
And so it's a powerful tool for us. And you know, we're still working on it. I'm not saying by any means we're knocking some home runs, but, you know, we brought the Boy Scouts to the World Cup. And now we have a deal with the Boy Scouts where we're going to have an exhibition, and plus something between 25 and 58,000 Boy Scouts are going to get to shoot paintball guns, right? So all the gambling thing, they came to World Cup. They sat there for 3 days. We have an outside sponsor, which I'm not going to name. They came to World Cup for 2 days, right? So that is our tool. And if I have to sacrifice, and I'm sorry, if there's some team that, you know, if you would have lost the championship because you didn't do well at World Cup, I'm willing to take that.
You know, I'm so torn. I'm so torn in it, Tom, because again, like in major love to my divisional team, you know, they did win divisional team of the year. Wrecking Crew won 3 events, did not do that great at World Cup, and they didn't win the series. And I know they're one of the teams that are very bitter about it, and same thing with us. Like I know our team Dynasty complains that if we hadn't won the series, like that would have stunk. But look, winning World Cup is really the most important thing.
One of the changes we've done to help with that, right? Because that is a problem, right? You win a bunch of events and then you go to World Cup and something goes wrong at World Cup and you don't do well, right?
I don't agree.
Tom,
I don't agree.
Tom, real quick, I'm agreeing with you on this.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is like I'm like,
no, but I'm going to give you a solution that we put in place to fix this.
Okay.
So if you were in the top 4 teams after Chicago, you get an automatic berth to the top 8 at World Cup in every division.
Yeah.
So that thing we did for Dynasty.
Yeah.
So it's going to get rid of that problem. So World Cup, when you say there's a lot of teams that get thrown together, right? Yes. You could end up with a team that has J.C. Whittington on it. We'll just use him as an example, right? In T3, because he decided to throw together something with Rage, and that's your tournament to shine. And suddenly your easiest team has one of the best paintball players in the world on it, right?
Yeah, great point, Tom. Great point. So that message wasn't conveyed in the release, in my opinion. So let's clarify that.
We're not good at conveying messages.
Yeah.
We'll give you that.
This is an
important.
That's
great news. That's amazing.
Yeah, this is a very important topic to, you know, again, still, even with getting that guarantee into the top 8, we were still kind of in that situation where like we couldn't be 2 places behind Heat. Otherwise we would have lost the series. But what I will say on that, you have to win World Cup. World Cup is the Super Bowl. Like even if you don't win the series, but you win World Cup, everybody remembers the team that won World Cup, not the series, you know? So that's how paintball's always been. So I don't know. I hear like the frustrations and I'm like, I don't know. I kind of agree with World Cup being super damn important.
Because Marcelo, March, if you guys lost to us in the quarterfinals and we go on to win the tournament and you guys take 3rd or 4th, we win it all. You know,
exactly right.
That's how it should be.
That's the drama I'm talking about, right? Like you gotta, and so it's funny. So I talked to the guys. I'm a big fan of the Luckies, right? Like I talked to those guys a lot, you know, and I asked them how World Cup felt, right? And you know, they played against some pickup teams in Europe, right? With all the good pros on, you know, it's not the same. No, you walk in the World Cup and you don't have your ducks in a row, then you are sitting in the VIP arguing with me about calls on Sunday, right? that is what's happening, right? And so that's what I want. I want your A game. I want you when you win that crying, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. And yeah, if you can't put your big boy or big girl pants on for the biggest event of the year and put it on the line, that's what makes sports, right? That's what it is. Right? And I'm sorry.
So no. Yeah, I agree. Again, again, with my divisional team, and I'm so proud of everything they did this year, but part of me, I'm like, guys, you didn't win the most important one. Like that is the one. World Cup is the one. You have to win World Cup. That's how I, from growing up, like that's just how I was taught. It's how I believe, World Cup is like this shining star. And it's the most important one.
This argument, right? Aftershock is like they've won more World Cups than anybody. Maybe that's no longer around, right? They didn't win as many tournaments as anybody else, but they win World Cup every year, right? Right. So that's the event that matters, right?
Totally.
So we're just taking that forward a little bit.
Houston,
the most amount of teams.
Houston Heat as well has had like just maybe not the greatest season, but then can win World Cup. And guess what? Everybody remembers Houston Heat that whole offseason. So really quick, Tom, just to touch on for the divisional teams, basically their standing during the regular season still very much so matters because it gives them that bye into the top 8, which is huge because so will they end up playing like we did? We had the round.
The exact same round you did, yeah.
Okay, so you play a full round. You play 3 matches, and all it is for seeding for the quarterfinals, which that means the games do matter. So the teams are trying, and you are getting experience, but there's a little less like pressure. You can kind of be at the event and experiment with things and really like test things with event paint, event refs, event conditions. I love that. I really do. I think that is something that I wasn't sure of when, everything got released with the prize packages and all that, but that's amazing. I think. Yeah,
no, I think it's a good step forward. Right.
And you're guaranteed in that top 8, you're guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay.
It's amazing. There we go, Tommy. And for everybody out there, because, like we said, the internet's really loud in the comments with all the negativity, but if we just take a step back and objectively look at all the things that we've added into the 2023 season, another pro WNXL team, we got the Boy Scout movement. Yeah. Oh, 2 more. That's right.
2 more. 2 more WNXL teams.
And we've got the gambling that's going to be making its way into paintball, which is pretty monumental. It's going to be a lot more eyes on the game just in that facet. I'm pretty sure the insurance, that's huge. That's monumental for the players, and that'll be rolling out in the 2023 season, if I'm not incorrect there.
You're correct. You're correct.
Yeah, and we have also an unknown
coverage from what everybody was talking about, right? We initially released that. Now it's going to be anytime the team is practicing, right? Not just the weekend before. It's anytime, and I think the number is going to be 3. We were talking to them today, but I think it's going to be anytime there's 3 players from the team practicing, that the insurance will kick in. So that's a big improvement to what we were talking about before with just the layout weekends.
I mean, these are all huge steps forward for the game, and getting more viewers, taking care of players, thinking about the right avenues. I will say, if we don't get a bright colored paintball, I'm not going to be very happy about the paintball game moving forward because I think that we need a bright
notes to help you out there.
Tom, we need a bright colored ball. I'm not going to lie. I didn't love your explanation as to why. Again, I think.
Well, what's my explanation?
That if a truck gets in an accident or breaks down on the way to the event with all the paint, then they have to go to the local stores, and now you have say HK has.
You can't make rules that are unenforceable.
This is true. This is true.
I'm just saying enforceable though.
I'm just saying for the
how
product.
How is it unenforceable?
What was going to happen at World Cup if we said you can't use whatever paint GI brought?
That's a problem. Yeah, for sure.
Hold on. How is it unenforceable?
Because we can't host the event without paint. And if any one paint guy does not show up, we do not have enough paint to get done the event.
But here, hold on. Can I just have the floor for a second? If we actually care about this product, and I know the paint companies care, I know that we all care. All of us care about this game a lot, and we care about this product because essentially that's what we're trying to build the best product imaginable for the viewers, for the players, everybody in the stands.
You've won the argument already. I got the right paint. on my to-do list. So
hey, so I
I'll
just
let you
saying,
know next week if I got it accomplished.
yeah, and I don't think it's going to be easy, and I know that there's probably things that I have no idea about that will be hurdles for it, but we've got to think big about this and about our game that we love so much, you know.
I got it on my list.
Let's go, baby.
Tom, the arguing the point to make to the paint companies is very simple. If the league is mandating it, then it's not a competitive advantage to ever make a purple shell even for practice. And that's the only reason paint companies have done it, is because it gives the players shooting it this competitive advantage. Players, like your recreational players, they prefer the bright colored fun paint anyway. That's like the stuff that is eye-popping and eye-catching. So I actually, you know, I think if that's just the way it was, they would make their recreational paint that color. They do anyway, actually. Like all the low grade paint, if it's not 5-star or like HK's premium, you know, tournament ball, it's not purple shell. You know, it's a bright ball anyway. So if the league, you know, said, hey guys, we got to do yellow shell.
You got me. I've changed my mind. So now I'm going to work on that right away.
Holy
dude, holy shit.
You're the best, Tom. You're the best.
And then, not to put the cherry on top, there's some unannounced outside sponsor that's looking at paintball too, and I'm sure there's more than one, because paintball is really thriving as we move into, you know, 2023 and beyond. It's being seen and played by more people than it ever has in the history of the game, and there is a real buzz around the game. So, you know, it's just, I guess my point to the whole thing is we're moving in the right direction and we're having the right conversations. And I personally couldn't be more proud to be a part of a league and to be a part of a sport and the forefront and making sure that we build this thing in the right way, because essentially that's what we're all doing here together.
Yeah, I think that in these next, I mean, so there was like the 2003 era, which was really good for paintball, right? I think this is going to be the best next 5 years for tournament paintball. And I think the players that are a part of that, yeah, they're going to go down in history as being part of that first group that got to move into that next level. So that's my goal, right?
Nee, you hear that? You hear that, Nee? We got to hold up like 5 more years, Nee. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think we could do it. Tom, I do gotta ask, because again, like a lot of the, no, not at all. It's no, but a lot of the things that I hear, from, again, teams that I coach and people online is this concern about, you know, other leagues popping up. This has always been the thing. You know, there's always somebody that wants to come and do it better. Bunker Fest and, you know, obviously Mike has a very successful league over on the West Coast, WCPPL. And what I'm hearing and my response to the people that have relayed this information to me is I feel like that's usually the case for the first event. People sign up late, but I don't know. Apparently registration is pretty low for the first event. Is there a concern about that, or?
First off, it's absolutely not true. It's almost like no one knows what
I don't.
On, right?
I don't.
So,
yeah.
And the people that are saying, so we were up 8 teams as of the first deadline. So some divisions are down, some divisions are up. I mean,
Got it. Okay.
Just go look at semi-pro. Look at semi-pro about how many people have signed up and how many people played it last year at the first event.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So and that's what before people say stuff, they got to think of how it's going to affect paintball as a whole. You don't like the
totally
NFL? Replace us. I'm down. I'm down for the fight. I like the battle. I'm all about it. Right. And in the end, I'm a paintball fan first. So if tomorrow someone comes up with a formula that's hugely successful and makes paintball great, I don't mind stepping to the side, right? Like, because in the end, I like the game, right? But to think that someone is going to create a formula that none of us have come up with in the past 20 years that's going to solve something is hard to imagine, right? And that can't be just a bigger prize package, right? I mean, and people forget this, right? But we gave away the cars, right? I was with Kingman when we gave away the cars. We gave away $25,000 per person at the 2v2, and less people signed up for that than D4, which paid out like $3,000 or something. And people are always like, why would I travel to the NXL and play D4 for whatever we're charging to compare to what my local league is? We'll use Mike Hinman, right? The last thing Mike wants to do is start moving his apparatus all across the country, right? We are the national league, and I'm a firm believer we need the Mike Hinmans of the world, right? It's a symbiotic relationship, right, between us and those guys, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry, I lost.
No, you're right.
No, yeah, exactly, Tom. I think
no league is ever. So just look at all the leagues, right?
Yeah.
Since the dawn of time, the first league. No, I can't remember the league, but Lively Productions, the league before that, the NPPL, the PSP, they all went out of business. Not one of them got sold, and not one of them moved on to the next level. Why? Because there's no money in it.
Well, you are hitting on
a kind of got sold. I'm pretty sure the NXL bought a lot of the infrastructure. Didn't Dave sell a lot of the infrastructure?
Not buying a company.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's
so if
fair.
I bought Dynasty just for the 10 guns you guys own, would you count that as a win?
Dynasty doesn't own any guns. That's Field 1. But anyway,
okay, the same thing is they had already given up the fight before they were out of business, or they were no longer running events after we came on. And that by no means is a shot at those guys. It just was not worth the money to fight. But let's rewind. Like, back to the thing. So if you tell me that you can, why would I play the National League instead of just playing my local league?
I have an answer for that.
Well, I got an answer. Why would you climb Everest? Right? It is the hardest thing to climb. We can all climb. I can climb hills in Alabama all day long. Why would I need to go to the Himalayas to climb the biggest mountain? Because that is what the challenge is. And like it or not, whatever people got to say, the National League is where the best players in the world are. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and it's all about that. Go ahead.
My argument to the different paintball players and team owners when these conversations get brought up, again, I'm at a paintball field every weekend. I'm with field owners, paintball players, team owners, and this is just as much my life as it is both of your lives here. And so when I hear this conversation and it's like, well, so and so is giving away this much for this division and yada yada yada, why would we play this instead of that? It's very, very simple. One, those leagues, good for them. So happy that they are offering a good prize package, but they don't have near the cost that the National X-Ball League has to throw these. Hold on, let me finish, Tom. That's not necessarily it, but that's also a fact, right? They don't have nearly the cost. It's expensive to travel and host these events. To me, my opinion, when you pay to go play in the National X-Ball League, you are getting an experience. It's not about the prize money yet. Hopefully one day it is, and I know you're working on that constantly, but it's about the experience. I've been to many regional events. None of them feel like an NXL paintball tournament, period. When I walk around the National X-Ball League events, I feel like I am at a professional organization, especially World Cup. Like, you don't get that feeling anywhere else. So you pay for that. You pay for the experience, period. And anytime that I have that argument, people are like, that's a good point. Okay, I didn't, people are so caught into like, let's compare entry fee to prize package, and it's like, if that's what you're doing it for, you're kind of missing the bigger point here. You do also bring in a good point that you get the best of the best. I don't know how necessarily true that is outside of the pro division and semi-pro division. I mean, there's some like amazing divisional teams that compete. There's some really good competition in some of these regional leagues, but for me, it's the experience. Like that makes it worth it.
I would challenge you to look at anybody that's winning their local regional league that's not also playing the NXL.
Okay. Yeah. I got some homework on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it just doesn't happen, right? You live in Australia, you're not going to be as good as people in a bigger pool, right? That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the math of it. And when you say we have more expenses, it's not really fair, right, to the local leagues, right? Because it's not their fault they have less expenses, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
of course.
That's our fault. But we are obviously trying to spend the money to pay me, right? That's what the goal is. So we're trying to spend that money to do other stuff, like the Boy Scouts to bring in TV. Yes, we could go back to the dark ages where everybody's just playing in their local area. But I mean, we are bigger. Let's just put this in scope. We are larger than the next 5 largest leagues in the world. Than all of them combined. And I say the world, in America, right? So the NXL is bigger than the other 5 biggest national leagues in the world. And you want to know what the 3rd largest league in the world is? The ICPL.
Which is also an NXL league. Yeah.
Right? So we touch more players than everybody else. So you're going to have, whatever. So the proof is in the pudding, right?
It is, for sure.
Want to pay for a premium product. And we could all, and I always use this, like, what is the goal? If the prize package is the goal and not the format or not the anything, we could go with a lot less refs. We can get rid of match play and we put a lot more money into the prize package, right?
Yeah, totally.
But that's not what we want. We want to play match play with great referees. If I start talking about you guys going to single point play, the pros lose their mind.
Absolutely.
Even if I said I could pay you another $50,000 in prize package, because that's not what you want. You want the product to be good.
Yes.
And so do we. And I'm going to give a shout out to the owners, because they've been taking a little shots here a couple weeks ago, the past couple weeks, Randy, Bart, and Dave, right? They are great for paintball, right? It does
100%.
It suck that we have owners that also play in the league? 100%. But do they gain an advantage by that? Absolutely not. There's some talk about like whatever, they shouldn't be allowed to pick up players or whatever. So they have never once overruled my decision in anything, which is a kudos to them. It's not that they say that I'm the smartest or I know better than them. It's just that's the way it has to be, right? And they could fire me tomorrow, and I would come back on the show and still say they're some of the best things for paintball that ever happened, right? They're passionate about the game. They have the money to put into it, and they want to make it better. Do we all agree on everybody's opinions? Do I like everything that they do? Absolutely not. They don't like everything that I do. We have full-blown battles about some of the decisions we make as a league, right? And I'm sure you hear it on the back end from Randy. But they've always let the vision that I have right now, and I will not always be this guy, right? They could replace me tomorrow with anybody. But for right now, they understand that my job is to lead this, and sometimes the decisions are not always going to go their way. So to me, that's a huge thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
they buy their own VIP passes, right? They own the league and they buy VIP passes, right? Yeah. That's how it is, right? And they voted for that in the beginning, and that is a huge quality. And I can't say enough about them, right? And it's not just because I work for them, right? Like I said, I'm a paintball fan, and they've been good for paintball.
Absolutely. And there's an extreme lack of gratitude, in my personal opinion, for what we have, because like you said earlier, you want to try and do this and build the league and do this. Good luck. Go ahead. Try it. Start one up and see what it's like, because it is not easy. And, I think that we need to really think about the way that we act as a community of players online and the way that we hold ourselves, because it is seen by more people than you could ever imagine. And it leaves a particular taste in a lot of individuals' mouths that might not be the most productive for the future of our game. And like you said, this same individual that might be like, you could have a person that's talking shit about everything one day and then saying, well, why isn't paintball doing this and that and all this? And why are we growing? Well, it's because, man, take a look in the mirror. Are you helping us? Why don't we try to like boost this thing up? Now, is anybody perfect? Nobody's perfect, but I guarantee you, I tell you personally that yes, we are giving this our all. And we're listening. Everyone wants this thing to do well. I promise you that.
I'll give you two things. One, so like we had this insurance thing going on, right? We're still negotiating with insurance. So it got leaked before I wanted it to, whatever, right? That's cost of doing business, right? But people literally are posting about how they're going to game the system, right? Before we even have something in place. Like, how selfish is that, right? And I want to go on there and be like, so guess what, guys? Our insurance is now double because Keyboard Warrior 101 out of Wisconsin had to post that he was going to break every rule and steal money from the insurance companies, right? I'm like, how arrogant is to put your personal needs over the needs of the industry as a whole, right?
I think that's a no-no too, right? I don't know. I don't know if you want that online.
Yeah. And I did learn something the other day, and I'm probably getting in trouble now because they're watching it again. But so I made a comment the other day about the DraftKings, let's say, right, that they were buying TV channels. And so I got a message from someone inside their organization said, how did you know we were trying to buy TV channels? And I made the comment back, we're texting back for that. I just said, I read, I keep up on you guys, But then when I hung up, I realized that meant he watched the show. Right? That means that someone that is leading us forward in gambling watched this show, and here's what we say. Right? So for all we know, Gatorade is sitting here watching to see if we have the professionalism to take them to the next level, right? And then when we do our shenanigans or whatever happens, right, they go out. Let's wait a couple more years for these guys to grow up. So that's how I try and do everything that I can do. Is this going to be good for paintball?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully
Tom,
that works. That doesn't always work, that's for sure.
Tom, we know that you have kind of went over your time here. We have some Discord questions.
Good for paintball is also my marriage.
100%.
Draw the line there. Sure.
If you don't mind, if we have some Discord questions, if we could just get through a few of those and then send you on your way, brother.
Thank you,
Tommy.
As long as everybody says nice things to my wife and says, we really appreciate Tom taking that extra Valentine's time.
Dude, seriously.
He deserves it.
I sometimes make her out to be whatever. She supports all this paintball stuff that I do 100%. So it's nice.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she's fantastic, dude. All right. Zinger PB, Josh Pianaski says, when can we expect an announcement regarding the Midwest location?
So we sent in our letter of intent on Friday or whatever. So hopefully the end of next week.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. Nice. Fantastic. Cool.
All right. We have
this is taking long.
Yeah. Okay. Bunkered Media. Shout out to Bunkered Media. Any input on the media budget cuts he's been hearing about? Is that true?
I'm not aware of any media budget cuts. You mean, are we paying less money for our photographers?
Anything like that? Yeah, because he put that in the Discord, but I haven't personally heard anything about that.
Probably. So we have to restructure our media situation. We've talked about this a little bit, and I don't have an answer. And I actually talked to some media guys, and we're actually going to have a media meeting at Orlando on Saturday. So the media guys, if you want to participate, reach out to me. But, we're just in a weird place, right, with the media. We have people generating money, and me and Ryan Greenspan and Marcel have talked about it. You have a photographer, a video guy that's making money off of Dynasty, and then Dynasty's not getting any revenue back, and they're also not getting any credit, can't use the footage. So we need to something is not working 100%. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. We just need to kind of get together and talk it through and come up with the best solution is. So yeah.
Awesome. There we go.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. We have Lords, AJ, Tom, as an opportunity to gain revenue and involvement, you should run a promotion where individuals can submit field layouts at $20 each. The individual whose layout is selected for Cup wins a free trip to World Cup. What do you think about that, Chaos?
Done. Ellen, good idea. Ellen, I wouldn't even charge. I won't even charge. If you want to send in potential World Cup layouts and we pick it, I will fly you to World Cup.
Damn.
Damn.
You heard it here, Lords.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Tommy, paintball.com. Send that over.
Dude, we appreciate you, Tom. And I mean that. I know that you have an extremely tough gig that you hold down. And, I wouldn't rather have anybody else at the helm. I think that you do a tremendous job. And we can't wait to see everything kick off here in a little over a month. We'll be at event number 1. We hope you have an amazing Valentine's Day with the wife.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, there's like 2 more questions. I definitely want to get Chad Figs. He's one of our overseas listeners. His question was wondering if there's any updates on NXL Europe's first event.
Yeah. Let's say that'll go out Thursday. I don't want to speak out of turn, but yeah, it should go out on Thursday.
I heard some cool stuff. If what I heard is true, event 1 is going to be sick, and I'm really bummed I can't be there. It's Archie's wedding, but it's going to be in a dope spot.
Messing up the system. You'll know on Thursday.
Okay, Thursday. Cool.
Amazing.
All right. Tommy boy, thank you so much, man.
You said you had two.
Yeah, we do.
We have a bunch in here.
Yeah.
I got time. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. There we go.
All right. So we got RS or Robert Smith, AZ. Yeah, Rob in the building. To encourage players to continue to play as they get older, as a player that is 51, will there be a possibility of a 45 and older division?
So that's secretly Ryan Greenspan asking that in there. Yes, that's actually an amazing idea. So I'm going to give points back. So I've gotten 2 really good ideas out of this, and I've lost the paint fight. So that'll be 3 changes for what to do. So yeah, I would love to add an older, a veterans division, shall we say. So I will look into that, and you'll hear it back here next time I'm on the show on what we're doing.
There we go. And that's Rod from AZ. Thank you, Rod. And also the youth division has been amazing to see so many youngsters. We got the ladies playing paintball. It's really cool to see every facet of life getting involved in this game because it's one of the best games in the world, and we want to get everyone playing.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. I love the kid stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
From Lettuce, and we did talk about this to start the show, but I don't know, or I don't recall if we had like a solution. Maybe there isn't one yet. But Tom, Mark Johnson has made some serious waves this offseason, shedding light on the way player deals are done behind the scenes. Is there anything the NXL can do or is working on to level the playing field with regards to player contracts and picking up or, quote, stealing players from other not as well-funded teams?
So, all right. So first, Mark Johnson stole people, right? He stole people, and then people got stolen back, right? And stolen's a weird term, right? It's like saying I stole your girlfriend or your wife, right? Everybody has a free choice, so everybody does it. And no, we cannot. The NXL is not in a position to mandate integrity, right? It's not our job, right? If you want to switch teams 40 million times, that's up to you. You want to go to the highest bidder, that's up to you. Whatever, no judgment there. Even though I did say integrity. The real thing is, and it's frustrating, right? Because no one writes this stuff down. You needed at least a letter of intent or what both sides are going to do to have an agreement that makes sense, right? If you just talk about stuff via text or whatever, there's so many misunderstandings that could be avoided just by writing a real contract down. And two, the last people in the world that you want to arbitrate in these debates is us. We're not in a position. So we're talking about two different things here. But first thing, as far as players' contracts are concerned, that is between them and the owner of the team. And if you write a contract, one of you two has to sue each other if it's not going to be held up. Why would the NXL become the court system when we have a perfectly working court system in the United States? If you're in Texas and someone was supposed to build your deck and they didn't build your deck, you wouldn't go to the deck association and say, hey, can you arbitrate this for me? You would take them to small claims court and say, hey, they haven't paid me. You sure wouldn't go to your restaurant and say, stop serving this guy because he stole my people. The NXL is not that person, right? And I'm going to use Mark Johnson just for argument's sake. If Mark Johnson paid me money to play for him, and then we wrote a contract and he said, I'm going to give you $1 to play for me, and I said, sure, and then I broke that contract by going to play for Houston Heat for $2, then it is up to Mark to take me to court to say I did not uphold that contract. But there's no way for us to enforce it. And I'll give you the complications. So, and it's probably on this show, which I won't use these examples because it'll get me in trouble. But anyhow, so I go to play for Mark, right? And let's say Mark said, I'm going to pay you $1 and I'm going to put you up at 5-star hotels all the time, right? I show up and he's got me at the Motel 6. So I say, you know what? This isn't what I wanted. So I'm going to move back to Dynasty because Dynasty's been trying to get me the whole time. It's a true story. So then I go back to play for Dynasty. So Mark files a claim with the NXL and says, hey, this guy made a move. I had already made an agreement with him. Now I got to arbitrate whether Mark lived up to his agreement or whether the player lived up to their agreement, and neither one of them are under any legal obligation to tell me the truth. When you go to court, both sides can subpoena evidence and both sides have some legality to get the truth, right? The whole truth and nothing but the truth. To me, they can just lie straight to my face and I have no recourse. And Absolutely. I've had this happen when I tried to arbitrate stuff when I was younger. I had a team owner call me and say, hey, I gave this guy 5 guns or whatever to play for me, and he quit midway through the season. So I called the player and I said, hey, this guy said you did this. And he's like, yeah, he gave me 2 guns. He told me he was going to do this. He didn't do this. I bought 3 flights out of my own pocket. He didn't pay me. So I call back that guy, and the guy's like, none of that happened. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to arbitrate this?
Totally.
So that's why we have a court system. If you know what I mean? Like, that's the way it is. I am not that guy, right?
Makes
I'm
sense.
not the guy to help you if your girlfriend leaves you or your boyfriend leaves you. I'm not the guy if someone breaks a contract building your deck, and I am not the guy if you can't work out your stuff. And the players would be better served by getting it in writing. That's my
totally
advice.
agree.
You got to have a letter of intent about what your expectations are and what their expectations are. We're bad at that sometimes, right? I talk and I'll make a deal with someone and I won't have it all in writing, right? And then I come back and it's never the way that I wanted it to be, right? That's my bad. Right.
This is a great point. And with the paint colors, once I get off the, we'll get this thing all dialed in.
Exactly.
We'll send over the letter of intent and have you sign it.
So I wrote that down.
I'm just joking, obviously.
So anything, back to that question, we're not in a position to stop players from moving teams throughout the season. It's just, and we do lock rosters, right? We do lock the rosters at some point, but that's more of a competitive thing that people stop just punitively from stealing people. My wife is coming in to steal the dog.
Yes,
Hi,
she's on the show.
Happy
She's on
Valentines.
PTG.
I'm getting my real Valentine right now.
Oh, and
the
the
dog was
dog's on
there
the
too.
show. Let's go.
Yeah, he's been here patiently waiting the whole time. So.
Oh, what a good pup.
Love
oh my
that.
goodness.
Oh, happy
You guys
Valentine.
completely messed up my like candlelight dinner and stuff now. Now there's just a candle out there. Yep, there's just a candle out there now. So
I think we got like 2 more questions and we're out.
go ahead. It's ruined now. I mean, you might as well go.
So what? First of all, I got to know the new pup's name. Who do we got?
Maverick.
Maverick.
Nice.
There we go.
Tight.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts
All right.
of PTG, meeting the dogs. All right, I got Sugar Shane 94. Tom, you provide a fantastic product. What is your opinion on limiting paint to 4 pods and a hopper to suggest more exciting content just for the pro league, not for everybody, just for the pros?
I love it.
There we go.
I'm a fan of limited paint to some level on the pros. I don't like it on the divisional side.
Agreed.
I've given my arguments before, but yeah.
I agree with you on that.
It's just challenging, right? Anytime you start limiting stuff or changing stuff, but I'm game. So tell him we'll put that on the list of referendums. And we've talked about it over and over again. So tell him.
Honestly, I think that even 6 pods isn't too crazy because it's when you get into like the 9, 10, 12 pods, then it's like, whoa, we got a lot of paint on the field. But I think 4 to 6 pods is like the perfect amount.
I feel bad for the Luckies, right? So the Luckies play an entire tournament series where they carry like 3 pods and they show up here and everybody's like 9 and they're like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's a different game.
To like waddle into their bunkers. So
I like 4. I enjoy playing 4 over in Europe. I really do. I like it, and I'm a shooter. I'm a 3 or a 2.
And I'll give you the thing that scares me by looking at the numbers, right? So in 2008, there was an economic downturn, right? So up until 2008, the Millennium and the PSP basically followed each other almost the same on a curve, right? So let's just say the Millennium had on average 20 teams less than the PSP did, right? So you look at those numbers and they kind of like mirror each other. One goes up, they both go up. They both go down, they both go down. And they both went down significantly in 2008. In 2009, somewhere around there, they started to introduce the limited paint, and the PSP continued with full paint. And the U.S. League grew back to a much higher level than the Millennium did at a disproportionate rate to what they did, right? So that could be many reasons, right? That it could be because of the limit paint. It could be because the U.S. just came out of the economic thing better. Could have been a lot of reasons, right? So then we tested limited paint in the United States in D5. So we had a D5 division that was limited paint all year, trying to make it cheaper, right? And so let's say we averaged 8 teams in that division. Then at World Cup, we had 2 divisions, one that was unlimited paint and one that was limited paint in D5. We had like 4 teams play the limited paint and like 25 play the unlimited paint.
For sure.
To be fair, changing it for just the pros though would have no effect on all that, right? Like you're not going to lose pro teams.
No, I'm never going to lose the pro teams. They got nothing else to do. But the problem is that you start a ripple effect, right? People want what the pros do. It's going to look like we're doing it because, for whatever reason they come up with, right? I like it to be the same game across the board. And I don't always agree with that. My gut instinct right now is I really want it to be kind of like basically the same game, but I'm not against it. I like limited paint for the pros. I've thought about that.
And don't get me wrong. Like shooting a ton of paint is a lot of fun too. So I appreciate both aspects.
And I'll use Rich Telford, right? Rich Telford job can be just to start in that center back and stop them from getting in the snake. You go to 4 pods and 3 pods. Now he's going to have to get in the snake. I don't know if he's ever been in the snake, right? No shot at Rich.
Oh,
but I'm just
Daddy's been in the snake.
Huh?
Rich Telford gets in that snake. He holds it down.
So you know what I'm saying? Like it changes the roles up a little bit and narrows the scope of how many people can play. Yeah. But in pro, it's probably already narrow, right?
Tom, my last question, and then you can go. And you already did kind of touch on this, but since someone asked, you got to give us a little bit of juice. What is the situation for non-paintball sponsors? Is there no interest, or has there been any contact lately from companies like energy drinks or big names? Can you give us anything about it? What category is this company
in? There's 2 categories actually. There's drink and travel.
Ooh, travel. Should I call up my homies at Delta Travel? They need to get involved.
You're on it. We're on it. So the challenge is it's just the numbers, right? The numbers are actually better. All right, we'll have to break this down. So the numbers are better than anybody thinks, right? So when we pitch our numbers, they're good numbers. We have a lot of social media engagement. We have a lot of stuff. We have no TV presence. So we're only affecting the people at the events, right? And the current model we have is our TV stuff is behind a paywall, which is a necessary evil, right? And so that is one of the things that hold us up. So we're working on that. So the two kind of go together. So we did move far last time, and this was with a cleaning product. We'll just make up a name. We'll call it Tide, right? Because that's a perfect marriage there, right? For Tide Pods to come in and say, you know, after a long weekend of getting shot up and getting my clothes all dirtier and painted up right, we always go with Tide, right? A natural marriage for a brand, right? And I thought we had a good chance, but we can't deliver viewership the way they want it.
Got it.
So we have a high participation and a very loyal following of people that will watch lots of paintball. We don't have the occasional viewer just scrolling through and picking it up, right? So that's something we need to improve upon in order to get these outside people. But we do have two people that are serious, and they are actually trying to help us get over the next step. Does that make sense? They're interested enough that they're trying to take us to the next level. So
can't wait.
So yeah.
Tom, thank you, man. Thank you so much for sitting down and sharing all this information with us. This was an excellent episode.
Yeah, Tommy.
Thank you very much.
Dude, you're the man. And we hope you have a great night. Go get those candles lit. Go hang out.
Big plans. She gave me a monster. Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Ooh,
Tommy boy's going to have a long night. All right, Tom. Go get that grill fired up.
All right, bye.
Bye, bud.
Happy Valentine's. Bye.
Happy Valentine's. Outstanding.
Oh, so good. I love it.
And before we leave, I do got to say a huge thank you to everyone who voted for us this year for the Iconic Award. We won the Creator of the Year, and it's because of all of you out there tuning into this show and supporting us on the socials and being a part of PTG World Discord chat room and just really going to bat for us. And huge congratulations to you, Marcella. You won Defensive Player of the Year, and everybody who won awards in the Iconic Awards and who was nominated. We're tremendously, just blown away by the love that poured out for us to win that award. And we're going to keep the good times rolling and keep having fun on this show. Hell yeah. All right, my brother. PTG World, PTG Nation, thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Ty, love you. Have a great night. Love you, Please tell the lady I say hello. Happy Valentine's to you both. And yes, you too. I'll see you soon. Yes, sir. Peace. All right, PTG Nation, thank you guys so much for tuning in and rocking with us. If you guys enjoyed the episode, please head over to ptgpaintball.com, click the Patreon link, and become a subscriber at any level. If you support the show, you get access to the Discord. You get tons of cool stuff. We do all sorts of amazing things. The Discord is fantastic. If you become a GOAT, you get a private show once a month where you get to ask us anything you want. It's a live Q&A. We talk about a lot of topics that we don't talk about on air. A lot of inside info, if you will. And we also do a ton of great giveaways. So we'd love to see you guys in there. And as always, we will see you very soon.